Welcome to the Veterans Cafe podcast, where we talk about issues surrounding veterans and soldiers, as well as current events in the world.
Sometimes we interview guests and organizations, but more than anything, we are here for you.
Welcome to another Veterans Cafe podcast. I'm Wes.
I'm Tracy.
And today we actually wanted to talk with you guys a little bit more about sort of the modernization of leadership strategies in the Army and how it's kind of molding towards what's actually happening all over the world, right?
Yeah, I think it's fascinating. I mean, I've said many times before, I've only been in the Army since 2009. But when I joined the Army in 2009, like specifically like basic training or like right after basic training AIT was what, like the fall of 2009 or so. When I went to my first unit in 2009 as an engineer, right after a formation one morning, I pulled out my iPhone 3 or whatever it was at the time, right? And I looked at it, like there was an email or text or something had come through, and there was like an NCO standing next to me, and he was kind of like, I don't remember who he was, but he was kind of like, what the hell are you doing? Put that phone away. This is no place for a phone. This is the Army. You blah, 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 whatever. Like he was just going on, and I'm going to keep it G-rated. But I was like, okay, sorry, Sergeant, whatever, put my phone away. And my husband and I have talked about this before. We're at a time now, right, in 2016 where I've gone to a couple of I don't think it's just my unit specific. I think it's just the way times are. But I've like gone to BTA or I've showed up for a mission or something. And, whoever's in charge, OIC, NCOIC, whatever, is like, you have your phone on you, right? It's so funny to me of how fast it's changed because, as I said before, there was a time where, my NCOs were looking at me like I was insane if I had a phone. And now it feels like if you don't have your phone with you, you're not actually able to do a decent job, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, and all these people are picking up on, of course, those types of technological changes and everything because, back in the day, back when I joined the Army... if you didn't show up for formation or something, there was no cell phone they could call you on or anything. That
was back in the day when they would go knock on your door, right?
Right, assuming you were home and not wherever else, so or in the barracks or whatever the case. So, yeah, they couldn't get a hold of you then and everything. So, of course, they're going to take advantage of the fact that we have cell phones now. But there's a lot of things that are changing in terms of how leadership is approaching everything.
Oh, because of technology, you mean?
Not just because of technology, but also I think the changes in just management theory and the way people are looking at the way you should lead people nowadays as well. If you look at, we were talking earlier about the new Sergeant Major of the Army.
I'm such a huge fan of his. I've never met him, but I don't know. I'm such a fan of his. He won my loyalty with the black socks.
Talk about him like he's some Hollywood celebrity.
It feels like it. He's all over my social network feeds all the time.
He is. He's become a very popular, outspoken person, Sergeant Major Dan Daly of the Army. Mm-hmm. And it's because he's actually starting to look at leadership a little bit differently in the Army in terms of how it's looked at. It's been looked at in the past. So he's probably really sort of the first wave that we're seeing of people looking at the Army a little bit differently. Most in the past you see senior NCOs who are complaining that we're not still driving Jeeps and shooting 45s instead of the Beretta.
And polishing your boots.
Right. And so those are the same ones that would take you out back and smoke you for whatever reason. Yeah. And all that is starting to change. And it's not just... I know there are a ton of you out there right now who are sitting there going, well, it's because we got a bunch of little pussies in the Army now, and it's not the case. It's not that we have like a bunch of weak people in the Army now. It's that we're actually getting better and improving on how well we lead people and how well we understand human behavior and all this kind of stuff. So we know now that it's not very effective to treat someone like complete and absolute shit and expect them then to follow up and do a good job afterwards. I'll never forget when I showed up at Fort Campbell, and I have a friend, I guarantee you he could attest to this with me because we both went to basic training. We were in the same platoon in basic training. Our last names were very close, so we were our bunks weren't far away and everything. And then we ended up in airborne school around the same time. We weren't in the same class, though. And then we both reported to Fort Campbell at the same time and ended up in the same company at the same time. So when we reported together to this company at Fort Campbell, our unit was actually already gone. They were gone to do a rotation at NTC. And all that was left there was one E5 and one E4. And the E5 was, of course, like a training NCO or whatever. And I'll never forget, he spent the entire first day just smoking us for no reason whatsoever, doing like duck walks with 4x4s on our backs. All this, I mean, it was so bad that we couldn't even walk right the next day. We were having trouble going up and down the stairs to our barracks. And not for any particular reason. It's not like, it wasn't like a management issue, like where we were showing up late or we weren't, in the proper uniform or anything like that. It was just him being a dick for no reason other than we were the new people at the unit.
Mm-hmm. And he could.
Right. And once my unit showed up, of course, I still got, smoked all the time and all that kind of stuff. But it was different when I was actually around the leaders in my platoon, because then it was really about management issues. It was like me just screwing shit up as a private, maybe showing up a couple minutes late or something wrong on my uniform or things like that. I can understand somebody telling me to do push-ups because I screwed up, something like that. Mm-hmm. But, the hazing essentially is what it was. That was something that was really weird to me. And it pissed me off that this shitbag E5 just sat there and did that to us, and it was okay back then. Mm-hmm. And of course now it's not. And it's because we're starting to see, the Army is starting to see that treating people like that it's not creating the family and building the trust and everything that we're always talking about. And, after nearly 15 years at war, obviously that's something that we should really be cultivating and honing in on, is building that trust and having that family mentality.
It's interesting. I just came back from a one-day mission, and anyway, it was like early morning, and we were walking to, we thought was formation, right? So we were like, it was the dark. I don't know. It was like 05:45 or something in the morning. And we're walking to the front of the building where we thought formation was. And we looked up and we realized it wasn't us. It was National Guard. Of course, right. The uniforms look the same, especially in the dark, right? Like we couldn't recognize faces. And as we got closer, the officer that I was with, looked to the side, and she was like, oh, this is definitely not us, because, we're not allowed to do that anymore. And I looked to the side, and it was two people doing push-ups. They were being punished for something. And then I made eye contact with her, and she was just like, she was like, if that's going to happen, it's like the whole platoon, it's the whole squad, it's the whole unit. She was like, it's about teamwork. And then, she just kind of said it off the cuff, and we just went into where we were going for the day. And it was interesting to me because it made me realize that I could see both sides. I've been in situations where I feel like my peers should be, I don't want to say punished, but they shouldn't be allowed to get away with certain things. Do you know what I mean? And it could be because, I'm an older soldier, what have you, but I realize that there's a bigger picture and there's a bigger reason for it. And I think technology and just understanding human behavior is interesting because, oh God, how do I want to say this? I don't think that you should punish one person all this thing, every time, all the time. I do think that there's some benefit out of, making sure that your squad is punished as well, so that way they could help develop your buddy, if that makes any sense.
I don't actually feel like I agree with that a whole lot, because to me, when you talk about someone screwing up and the squad needs to get involved and start helping that individual, be a better soldier and whatever means, or, that to me.
Oh my God, that movie I love.
What?
Who doesn't love that movie? With Santiago?
What
Jack
the hell
Nicholson?
are you talking about?
A Few Good Men with the soap? Oh my God, who doesn't love that movie?
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
Anyways, what I was saying...
You can't handle the truth.
What I was saying, though, is that if you want to get the squad involved in trying to correct the behavior of one soldier, then it's not about punishing the entire squad, because all you're going to do is cause resentment against that one soldier. You're not really fixing any kind of issue. You're just implementing a fear tactic for this one, and who knows, he could be screwing up because he sucks at life. I mean, he could just suck. And so if he sucks at life that bad, he's going to continue to screw up, and the squad's going to continue to get punished. And really, honestly, who knows how far that could be taken as far as the squad trying to correct his behavior.
Yeah.
Individual punishment should be addressed individually, and I have no problem with people having to do push-ups and all. I will still, my guys, they know if, look, I know people are late sometimes. I know people have like car troubles. And I know they make up bullshit and they're just late because they were drinking the night before or something. That's fine, whatever. But if you don't text me or call me and let me know what's going on and you just don't show up, I'm going to smoke the fuck out of them when they get there. And I've done it recently, you know? So it's just communicating with me. But I'm not going to take my entire squad out back and punish all of them because one little kid can't get his shit together and show up to drill on time. Because it's just not fair to the entire squad. And I'm certainly not building trust with those guys, with my entire squad, if I'm punishing all of them just because one guy can't keep it straight, you know? So I don't know. I guess on that one point, I just disagree.
Well, like I said before, I see both sides. I think it's interesting. I just thought it was an interesting topic. And, of course, we all know I spend a ton of time on social media. So one of the command sergeant majors that I met recently on a different mission, I'm sure he will never remember me because how many people does he meet all the time? But we got in a very brief conversation about PT because he showed up that morning to do PT. And of course, he's going to be one of my favorites because he shared some of my photos. Anyway, but we got in a very brief conversation just about...
You can find our photos at TracyMcKithenphotography.com.
You're so silly. So I was like...
I thought you were about to throw a pitch in there, so I was going to go ahead and just do it for you.
No, I was just saying, so, of course, Sergeant Major has my loyalty because of the black socks, right? So Command Sergeant Wills has my loyalty because, he shared some of my photos. So anyway, the whole point is we got in a very brief conversation after PT, and he was talking about, like PT test. And it's just one of those things that has been like on the radar of the Army. And, I mentioned it to my husband the other day. I kind of feel like, from my perspective, I feel like, senior leadership is actually listening to what we're saying. They may not actually be listening to what they're saying or what we're saying, but I feel like they're listening to what we're saying, and I feel like they're using social media to communicate with us. And from my opinion and from my perspective, from where I sit, and it could just be because, I'm obsessed with social media, I find it fascinating that in 2016, right, I have my phone now, and people are kind of expecting that I have my phone. And since I have my phone, I'm looking down and I'm seeing updates from Sergeant Major Bailey or, one of the command sergeant majors or what have you. I just think and Army Times does an amazing job of sharing like current news. So I don't know. I just find it's like, I don't know. It's just an interesting time. I like the fact that the Army's trying to adapt, I guess.
Well, I think you're right that it's like when talking about Sergeant Major Daly, there was an article which we'll link to, and it was talking about all of these basically questions from soldiers in terms of a poll that he was answering.
Yeah.
And he starts talking about the tape test and the PT test. And so aside from just socks and earbuds, which I know it's what you're obsessed with.
Tracy is thrilled about the socks and earbuds.
He is actually talking about attempting to fix other issues. And you know what? Behind the scenes, behind the curtain, they all may be saying to themselves, God, these people won't stop bitching about the PT test and the tape test and all this
SSD
stuff, right? But on this, it doesn't even matter if it's on the surface. They're still coming out and they're still addressing it because there's so much outcry from soldiers. They're still going to come out and they're still going to address it. And he's talking about, and I know they've been trying to fix the PT test for a long time, but now also the tape tests and other things like that. Even if they may not agree with all of us about the idea that should be fixed, they're probably just thinking in their head, just get your ass in shape, stop worrying about it or whatever.
They're thinking, put the cookies down.
All right, we got to change the tape test because this asshole wants to eat Chips Ahoy and wants a little bit of a belly instead of
a six-pack.
Yeah. Right, so... But, even if they don't agree with it, at least they're coming out and they're addressing it. And it's less about, I think, fixing the system and more about creating a morale boost among the Army as a whole, especially an Army that's incredibly tired and exhausted from deployment after deployment after deployment. So I think it says a lot that they're actually coming out and trying to address issues that we are all concerned about and voicing our opinions about.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. I think we're living in an interesting and exciting time. And like I said, my husband was going to share the article, and he kind of he picked like 9 topics that he hears about all the time, and one of them just kind of made me chuckle because he was talking about the rolled up sleeves, which I'm a fan of. I mean, depending on what state you're in, it gets really hot. I mean, I haven't deployed, so I'm not going to pretend I know what it's like there.
That's why we have Heat Cat, all right? If it's Heat Cat 5, you can roll it back 1 time, maybe 2. That's why we have it.
That's pretty much basically what was said, what the Sergeant Major said in the article. He was like, there's no need for it, so no.
That was like numero uno that I was taught when I got to basic training at Fort Benning. They were like, you're in the infantry. If you're ever rolling up your sleeves, it's because you're in trouble and you're going to do fucking KP, and that's it. And that was it. That was the last time doing KP there, basic training. That was the only time and last time I ever rolled up my sleaves. Because it just does not happen.
I don't know. I think I've talked about this on a podcast. I know I've talked about it with you in person, but when I went through basic still photography at Dinfo's, we were with a couple of Marines who, oh my God, I missed. They were so awesome. 2 of them specifically. But anyway, I was very jealous of their uniforms because they have an array of uniforms. And we had Fancy Friday. We had to do like the dress. It was God, what was it? I don't remember if it was B or A, but we had to like dress up all the time on Fridays. And of course, they're Marines, so they would come in and oh my God, they would blow us away because they had so many uniforms at different times of the year, and they had that amazing sweater, and I don't know, but different times of the year though they could roll up their sleeves, and I was very envious because even in Maryland I was really hot sometimes.
Well, that's the only thing they have that's better than us. The rest of their equipment is all shit that we used 10 years ago.
Except for their camera equipment. I think I told you this, right? They at least at the time I was there at Dinfo's, they had brand new Mark IIIs, like they were still unwrapping them from the plastic boxes, like they're brand new. And we had these Nikons. I think they were like a 300S, and those poor things looked like they had been around for God, I don't know, 15 years. So I just thought it was interesting.
You realize that the people that care about the camera equipment that Marines have, it's literally in the 0.00 percentage.
You're so silly.
I'm just saying.
Anyway, I kind of disagree with him there with the sleeves, but
yeah.
But everything else is
and
awesome.
Also in terms of disagreements, I know that Tracy a while ago mentioned that he talked about SSDs, and some of you probably got a little flutter in your stomach thinking, oh my God, they're going away. No.
But he did say that he does not disagree. Like, he agrees they need to,
How could they possibly make it better? I mean, come on. 80 hours of PowerPoint multiple choice. What are they going to do to make it better?
Shorten it, make it...
They can't shorten it because it's a credit hour, requirement is the point.
Perhaps put it on a system where everybody can access it all the time. SSDs are hard to load on a computer if it's not a military computer.
Oh, you mean the security stuff?
Yeah. God, they're hard.
I thought you meant where just anybody can jump on there and do it.
No. Well, you know this. You and I have had this conversation all the time. There are certain laptops that I cannot even attempt to open. Military site.
I've spent a lot of time getting our laptops to where Tracy and I now can visit anything, right? We can do anything.
I can open anything right now.
We can do anything with the military that we need to online. She feels powerful, but I did it. I feel like fucking Google should be calling me right now, or Apple should be calling me and being like, we need your genius in our engineering lab. I mean, I know nothing about engineering, but the fact
Steve
that
Jobs.
I can, yeah. They're like, we need you to come be a motivational speaker on everything that we do working with the Army so that we can navigate their security properly. Come teach us. Come teach us.
You're so silly. So just going back to technology and social media just for a brief second. I think I actually made this post on the Facebook page. I may or may not have. I was just curious because I hadn't even asked my husband this. I'm assuming he's seen it. I don't know. There's a video, speaking of Marines again, that they posted a training video where they were tossing grenades. And part of the video was GoPro and part of it was just an actual still video camera, what have you. And I thought it was amazing footage. And there was a couple of moments where, since it's a GoPro, you see the guy's hands and you see him pull the pin and you kind of realize that, he's waiting for the command to toss it. And it just made me wonder if there are moments where you've been out there training in the Army and you've had a little bit of fear. And if you had, like, what were those moments? Like, I'm just curious if anybody wants to share any of those with us. And then if you did have them, how did you get over them? And, question, of course, goes out to my husband right now, live.
I'll never forget the first time I actually had to use a hand grenade on a training range that we were doing.
Yeah.
And it was so every year we had this big FTX, right? This big, they call it a CALFAX. And it's like combined armed live fire exercise, right? We even had I don't think it was Apaches. We had something like just firing overhead, and I think we did it twice a year. And we would take this trench system, this famous trench system that's at Fort Campbell. Mm-hmm. And of course there's bunkers at the end of of each leg of the trench, right? That was the first time I ever had to use a hand grenade, because you have to clear the bunker with a hand grenade from behind after you hop in the trench, And I'll never forget, and I know they were screwing with me. The guys were screwing with me, because I was just a stupid private. And they were like, the way we train to use a hand grenade whenever we're going to a bunker is we cook it off. Mm-hmm. So you let go of the spoon and you count to 2, and then you toss it in the bunker so that they won't have time to actually pick it up and toss it back at you, out of the bunker. And of course we got in the trench and everything, and they were like, don't cook it off, man. Sometimes those fuses, you never know. I mean, they could be 4 seconds. They could be 1 second. Just throw that fucker in there. I'll never forget, man. Oh my God. We got to that bunker and I was shitting my pants. so with this hand grenade in my hand. It was the first time I'd ever, done anything outside of just the grenade range pit, I mean, so it was a little weird. Weird. I was scared shitless as a private to have to walk around with that kind of, those kind of munitions just in my hand and just getting ready to toss it and everything. Yeah. And these guys are fucking with me about it's going to go off in my hand and all this. Anyways, I will never forget that. But back to the matter at hand.
Yeah.
So if you find yourself to be sort of one of these old crusty people that's been around for a long time, if you've been in the Army for a long time and you kind of entered it and you went through the same situation that I did, you got your unit and you were just screwed with for weeks and essentially hazed and all that kind of stuff, and you kind of took on that mentality and you're still practicing it, you should definitely consider changing the way you do things and start looking more into management styles and leadership development and all this kind of stuff, all those books, all that kind of stuff that's out there. I mean, we can link to a couple here that I've read that are really good resources, because not only does it matter while you're in the military, because the military is changing along with, essentially the market. But once you get out, whether you retire or you just finish your tour of duty and you get out, you're still going to hit the same issues when you go find a job somewhere. You're not going to be able to go there and act like some hard ass and treat people like shit and expect them to get things done for you. You're going to have to start adopting these management styles that are relevant today. Even if you listen to some podcast or you read a book or something like that and you think it sounds cheesy and you're like, what the fuck, why is everybody a big pussy today and all that, you can think that all you want, but the world's moving on with or without you. So if you don't wake up and you don't start changing the way you manage people and lead people, and you don't get out of those old habits, then the entire world, I guarantee you're going to have a hard time working anywhere. And everyone else that does adapt to it is going to be waving at you while you're holding your 45, sitting in your Jeep.
Polishing your boots that you can't wear.
Your boots. Yeah. Looking like a dumbass. So get on board. And if you have any questions about it, like I said, I'll link to a couple of books in the show notes that I've read that are really good resources to help you start to at least get your head in the game in terms of that type of leadership development and the way you should be approaching these things. And of course, you can always reach out to us and ask us anything. I can talk to you about anything. I work for a very large company right now, and I work in retail management, so I'm having to deal with this too. I was having to make my own adjustments, and Tracy has worked for retail for a very long time in a very large company, and so we've both had to actually kind of deal with this. And she's actually seen it from the exact opposite framework as I have. She started doing it and then went in the Army, and so we can definitely give you some help with it. We can point you in the right direction, give you some advice, whatever you need to know. Reach out to us at themax@vetscafe.com. Okay, so thank you guys for listening to another episode of the Veterans Cafe podcast. Don't forget to go to iTunes. If you get the chance, give us a good review or a bad one, whatever you feel. We don't care. Just give us one.
I would assume good.
Yeah, just throw one out there. We don't care.
We do.
And if you do, want to give us a good review, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Make sure that you get the episode in your sleep when you wake up on Wednesday morning. Okay, I'm Wes.
I'm Tracy.
And we'll talk to you next time.
Bye.
Visit our website to join the conversation. That's vetscafe.com, vetscafe.com.